When you grade evil on a bell curve, you hire the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy. Unfortunately, the others are unavailable this week due to some personal issues, but in the meantime, I found a substitute from a prior podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jesse.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've done this together.
Yeah, I think according to my Skype records, about 4 months.
About there. You think about getting back into this on a regular basis?
I would like to.
Okay. I mean, it's a discussion to be had. It's just, you know how I feel about these things. I just want the energy up simply because the more passionate we are, the more passionate everybody is, and we all get to discuss fun stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's always a bummer when sometimes the responses to certain news stories are, You know, it makes it sound like it's about as entertaining as a bad fart. So, hopefully the subjects are good. How have you been anyway, man? I guess that's kind of a stupid question considering like 20 days ago I was face to face with you.
Oh, yeah. Right now, just stressing over stuff that's going to bore everyone else. I won't discuss it. And dealing with smoke from Reading.
Okay. All right, well.
Oh, it's a nightmare outside.
Yeah, it's not the good kind of smoke either. The one that California legalized about it, 12 months ago. I tell you what, though, last time I saw you were at Comic-Con with me, which automatically brings you a whole bunch of derision and jealousy from like half the nerds that hear this show.
Suck it.
Oh, Jesus. Just straight up, dude. You're practicing that evil grin right now. Okay. What was your opinions at Comic-Con? Because I dug it.
Let me get my thoughts together.
Hold on. Wow, this may take a while.
Let the gears grind. Very well organized. It's been getting better and better every year, despite the fact that I didn't get to do 3/4 of the things I want to do. It's still a great con to go to.
I know. The lottery system that they introduced for exclusives kind of screwed the two of us, but at the same time, as much as I complain about not getting anything, I can't think of a better way to do it. You know, it did cut down on the amount of people who were just milling around some of the larger booths praying for stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, there are certain areas that were easier to move, certain areas that were harder to move. It's a give and take no matter what you do when it comes to Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
But the Pillow Show was good.
Oh, man, I discovered I don't like concerts from that.
I
like the pillows, but I cannot deal with the sensory assault.
Okay, you like the music at least.
Yes, I love their music.
Okay, good. I was disappointed they brought no CDs with them. I thought for sure they would have brought something to sell.
I think that was a missed opportunity.
It was. It seriously was. I was ready to drop $30 on a fresh CD. But, that's neither here nor there. The subject of this week is Shattered Starlight. It is an original webcomic, but we'll get to that after the news of the week. And we're going to start with Marvel comic news. We get to talk about the major storylines and characters that are about to hit the comic book pages. And we have to start with the Infinity Wars event, which just started this past week. Jesse, how much do you know about Infinity Wars?
Gauntlets, 6 gems, and that's the extent right now.
Okay, well, that was the Infinity Gauntlet. Infinity Wars is turning out to be very different. We'll start with Infinity Wars Prime, the prequel issue.
Uh-huh.
The new villain, a woman in armor named Requiem, appeared out of nowhere, and she impaled Thanos.
Ooh.
Through the back of the chest with her sword. And he seemed to recognize her, but he fell to his knees, she came around the front, and in one stroke lopped off his head.
Well.
Yeah, Thanos is done for the time being.
He'll be back.
Yeah, that's the discussion we had last week. It never seems to be too difficult to kill Thanos. The hard part is making him stay dead. Death never seems to keep him. You know? But fast forward to Infinity Wars #1, we've had the reveal as to who is behind that armor. She dropped in at an informal meeting of the current Infinity Watch, a.k.a. those souls who currently have the Infinity Gems.
Okay.
And she already had the Power Stone, which Star-Lord thought he had. He had it in a box, he reached in to grab it, it turned out to be a hologram. So,
it should have been a troll doll, man.
You're cruel. You're absolutely cruel. Anyway, the Guardians of the Galaxy attacked, or at least what's left of them. Groot, Rocket Raccoon, and Star-Lord tried to attack Requiem, and then they finally broke her mask, and underneath it all was Gamora.
Well, okay, that explains how she got the Power Stone.
Yeah. So, Star-Lord just says that she wouldn't hurt him, he's going to approach her as a friend, and she suddenly muttered something to the effect of, what was it? I can't remember what it is. It was something to the effect of death not being permanent. And then she impaled him with her sword.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the course of 2 issues, Requiem, aka Gamora, has killed both Thanos and Star-Lord. I would call that a big start.
Yes.
And that was the big moment at the end of the first issue. And I'm super curious to find out what happens in the next issue. It's not a terrific event so far. It just started. But at the same time, that's one friend killing another friend very personally.
Now, I might be looking too much into this, and call me out if I am.
Okay.
Didn't Star-Lord in the MCU have the Power Stone?
Well, the Power Stone was the prize at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film.
Yeah.
But in the MCU, he wasn't able to wield it. In Marvel Comics, the Infinity Stones can be wielded by single individuals. It's just a question as to whether or not they can, I guess you could say, properly harness the abilities that it gives them. When it comes to wielding all 6, yeah, it takes someone of unusual resolve to be able to make that work.
I'm just making it interesting. I might be again. I believe I'm stretching it on this one. It's like there might be some tie into the MCU's universe in the main comics.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
By the way, I looked up the issue. What she muttered before she killed him was "Nothing ever dies, Peter."
Oh, that's such a comic statement.
It is. It is a comic statement. It may also have to do with Gamora's particular issue right now. Is that she wants the Soul Stone very badly. The Soul Stone is still harboring a small chunk of her soul from her prior membership in the Infinity Watch. That's why she wants it. She figures there's a piece of her missing, which also might be why she feels okay just impaling Star-Lord. Maybe when she gets all the stones together, she feels like she can just put him right back together.
It's never that simple.
I didn't say it was that simple. It just could be. I do know that as a result of Infinity War, several characters are going to get smashed together in what they call warps. You have like a version of Iron Man and Thor as a single character called the Iron Hammer. Doctor Strange and Captain America, the Soldier Supreme. Moon Knight and Spider-Man, the Arachnite. Things like that.
I've seen some of those covers.
Yeah, they were images. The only other one that's been confirmed so far is Weapon Hex, which is a combination of Scarlet Witch and X-23. We found out last week that there was a rejected concept, Deadbolt. Deadpool and the Black Bolt.
Oh, God.
I take it you can see what the problem is with that one.
Yeah, just a bit. Honestly, when I saw this, I thought there was some, like, some fan art covers. I didn't realize they were an actual thing.
No, that is a real thing. There will be one-shots released somewhere around the 3rd or 4th issue of Infinity Wars.
It feels like something like from Amalgam.
Maybe, but it's not quite just jamming together 2 themes from 2 separate companies.
It's jamming 2 characters together into one.
Yeah. Well, still, there's no telling what it's going to be like until we actually read it. Speaking of which, the Champions are going to Weird World in an upcoming storyline. Weird World is this... I don't know if it's cross-dimensional or if it's just a rogue planet in the Marvel Universe, but it's a place basically where magic thrives. It's almost like... I guess you could say it's the Marvel equivalent to Eternia. You know, the home planet of the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I got that.
The thing is, though, some superheroes are going to go to Weird World for an unknown reason so far. The Champions are going.
All of them? Who's in there?
Well, that's where it gets strange. There have been a few teasers of, I believe, 4 of their characters, excuse me, who will make it to Weird World specifically. Miles Morales, Riri Williams, Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and Amadeus Cho is currently going by Brawn.
Brawn, okay.
Yeah, the thing is, though, they are not exactly just going by themselves. They're going as almost D&D-esque versions of themselves. This may have to do with Weird World. Maybe they're enchanted somehow, or maybe they're trying to fit in. But here's an image of Brawn as an orc warrior with a giant hammer. Here's an image of Miss Marvel, who appears to be a mage or sorceress. There's another image of Riri Williams. She wears armor, so you can guess what she's dressed up as.
Oh, yeah.
Except she's carrying a sword and a flail mace. It's actually a pretty damn good design. And then,
that's a shield, actually.
I said, a shield and a flail.
Okay.
And then Miles Morales, You know, the
Oh,
guy
he's
who...
gotta be the rogue. He's the rogue.
Oh, yeah, he turns invisible and hides. What do you think he does? But his design is probably the furthest away from his costume because they gave him a bunch of padded armor, this weird ass dark cloak, and holy shit, dude! I swear to God, I
I
don't
think he
quite.
doubled up on Riri, actually.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was some kind of weird glitch when I was trying to open the image, and it just doubled up on that one.
All right.
But Spider-Man, jeez, he looks like something straight out of Forgotten Realms, complete with the twin daggers. The
So we got a barbarian, a cleric, a mage of sorts, and the rogue. This is a standard D&D group.
Well, these teasers so far that they've released are just these four. There's 3 or 4 other members of the Champions that aren't here at all. That includes Nadia Pym, the Unstoppable Wasp, Viv Vision, you know, the Vision's daughter, Sam Alexander, who recently lost his Nova helmet to the Nova Corps, and I get the feeling Snowguard, their newest member. She transforms into different animal totems.
Snowguard.
She's a brand new character that was created by a recent writer of issues. She's Canadian, with her bloodline going back to some of the native Eskimo's a bad word. The native Canadian tribes.
Yeah.
So she's brand new. There have been questions as to whether or not she may be connected to Snowbird, since most of the Champions are legacy characters and her powers are very similar to the Alpha Flight member, but there doesn't appear to be a connection so far.
Does there really have to be?
Doesn't have to be. It's the constant theme of the Champions up to this point.
It just seems coincidental at this point.
It seems like it, but you never know. Marvel has also debuted covers to their What Ifs that are coming up for this year. They're doing several one-shot What If issues having to do with different themes. And I will send you a link to the story, so I am not just copying and pasting a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
That seems to be counterproductive in certain respects. There you go. The first cover has to do with What If Magic by Leah Williams and Philippe Andrade. The basic story is, how would magic have developed if she didn't spend her younger years in a hellscape? Which is an interesting question. Because so much of her current Marvel history is bound to her childhood in limbo. The second one, What If X-Men, it has something to do with what if the X-Men were constructs in a digital world.
Matrix stuff.
I almost want to say Ready Player One. I'm still trying to pull apart how this
that
works.
Too, actually.
Yeah.
They gave him a Terminator eye.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that too. That's done by Brian Edward Hill, who's usually a pretty good writer. The art's going to be by Neil Edwards and Giannis Milanoganis. Wow, that's a mouthful. I'm super curious about the next one, the What If Thor. It is a juxtaposition. In Marvel Comics, Loki is the one who's found by Odin and raised as Thor's half-brother.
Yeah.
In this case, it's what if Thor was found by the Frost Giants and raised as Loki's half-brother.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's a big change in Marvel history. And then you have What If Ghost Rider. It's a real-world Marvel Universe crossover. What if the Ghost Rider existed in modern-day Washington, D.C., like regular world Washington, D.C.? That whole city would go up in fire.
Taking a page out of Mad Max right there.
Yeah. What if Flash Thompson became Spider-Man?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what if he was the one who was bitten by the radioactive spider? That's going to be done by Jerry Conway and Diego Orlotugui. Oh, by the way, the What If Ghost Rider is going to be done by Sebastian Gerner and Caspar Wingard. And the last known What If is What If Punisher. It's what if Peter Parker, with the spider powers, became the Punisher. Instead of hunting down Uncle Ben's killer and just stopping him, what if he stopped him permanently and that became his motif growing up? Or going through his superhero phase.
That's a drastic change.
It is. It's going to be written by Carl Potts with art by Juan Ramirez. That's a pretty good set of one-shots. I want to read most of these.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm sad about is, as an X-Men fan, I'm still confused by the What If X-Men here with the whole digital world stuff. I don't know what they're going for there, and I hazard to guess.
I'm thinking there might be some post-apocalyptic scenario that Matrix kind of set up.
I just hope it's cooler than the concept sounds. The concept sounds a little thin. Also, Marvel Comics has regained the comic book rights to Conan the Adventurer, or Conan the Barbarian. It's been a long time since Marvel's produced Conan comics. I do know that the new volume is upcoming, but in the meantime, Marvel is going to release what they call the Conan Chronicles, collections of the prior Marvel Comics versions of Conan. It also collect his comic book adventures from the early 2000s. That is pretty nifty.
That's a big book.
Yeah, it's from the 2004 volume, issues 1 through 19. It was done by award-winning creators Kurt Busiek and Kerry Nord. These are going to retell classic Conan stories by the original author of Conan the Barbarian, Robert Howard, including Conan's battle with the Vanir and his meeting with the Frost Giant's daughter, and more than that. There's also going to be Conan Chronicles Epic Collection, The Heart of Yagkosha. It goes back to Conan's youth to retell Howard's stories of the City of Thieves and the Hall of the Dead. And then there's Conan Hyborian Tales. It's going to collect a lot of one-shots and miniseries from 2004 to 2016. Man, it sounds like they're getting to republish other publishers' books in the meantime. Hey, if you're a Conan fan, this has got to be a great frickin' time. I admit to not reading a whole lot of Conan comics growing up. You know, the character concept was cool in the movies. I just never... I guess at the time I just didn't see reading a comic book about a barbarian.
And the idea of a barbarian just didn't hold well with me. I barely liked He-Man, so
Yeah, you're more of a cleric player, so...
yeah, tanky, heavy armor.
Last up in Marvel comic news, man, the solicits for Marvel Comics may have revealed a surprise that's upcoming in an issue here. A surprise for an X-Man, no less. You know that Wolverine, James Howlett Logan has returned from the dead.
Yep.
Right now there's 3 different miniseries talking about the different characters that are looking for his body, or him, as it may be, right?
Yeah.
Well, it looked like an X-Man may be getting a major change. In one of the miniseries called Hunt for Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor, a number of female X-Men have been looking through his Madripoor stomping grounds for him. Psylocke, Jubilee, Rogue, and Storm, as well, all led by Kitty Pryde, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the X-Men in Madripoor were caught off guard by a psychic named Mind Blast, who pretended to be Magneto. And,
all right.
Okay. The ambush is pretty successful, and Storm, Rogue, and Psylocke are all taken prisoner. Domino, Kitty Pryde, and Jubilee escape. Okay, since then, the story's pretty much been about the X-Men trying to escape. Or the escaped X-Men trying to rescue the ones who were captured. In another subplot, there is a near-vampiric character named Sapphire Styx. She eats souls.
Okay.
And she preyed on Betsy Braddock, Psylocke.
Yeah.
Okay, Betsy seems to have died, but the telepathic powers were still in play, making a psychic version of Wolverine as Patch to fight alongside the freed X-Men. So she's still...
Patch.
Yeah, I know. He put on a patch and a white suit, and somehow people couldn't tell this was Wolverine. Don't ask me how that worked. That's almost as dumb as a pair of glasses, and all of a sudden Superman disappears. The thing is, though, there is a variant edition cover that's been released for issue 4, which should be the last one in this miniseries.
Uh-huh.
And it does show Psylocke on the ground. What's important, though, is who appears to be standing over Psylocke is Psylocke.
Like original Psylocke?
It does appear to be her original body, which last I heard still had a Japanese assassin in it. So I don't know if this is the return of that assassin in her body, who last I knew was very much dead, or if Betsy Braddock's displaced mind somehow returns to her original body. But if you take a look at it, this seems to be pretty serious because it involves a brand new X-Men outfit for Psylocke. She has never worn that one.
I like it.
It's nifty and everything. It's just, if this was a surprise, it's kind of disappointing that the variant cover coming out may have spoiled the whole darn thing.
Really?
Yeah, there was no announcement of any changes to Psylocke. And we do know that X-Men Blue and Gold are ending this September, and it was announced at Comic-Con that the Uncanny X-Men series is returning, but we don't know the roster. This may be part of it. I mean, I guess I could see why they would do this, though. Psylocke has been in this Japanese body since the early 90s, and I'm not sure there's any other stories to be told about it. Let alone, we now live in an era where characters like Betsy Braddock, who is a white woman trapped in an Asian woman's body, could be seen as culturally insensitive, so maybe they have an incentive to switch her back to her original form. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not sure what exactly all this entails. It's just a very curious turn. But this is the Terry Dodson variant for Mystery in Madripoor. Maybe it's a feint. Maybe it's just an image. But we won't know until they come out with the issue, and I believe that comes out relatively soon. Matter of fact, let me bring the story back up and see when this issue is supposed to be released. It's due out August 22nd, so it should be out here in about 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah. I haven't been reading that many. It hasn't really pulled me in. I flipped through it, but I may have to read this issue just to find out what happened to Betsy Braddock.
The curiosity, man, that hook.
Yeah, that's a big hook in my face anyway. Next up is DC Comic News. We're going to talk about the other major player in comic books and their storylines and characters coming now and in the near future. Scott Snyder has announced that he is going to be on the current Justice League series for at least 50 issues.
Wow.
I know. He was teasing a big 2019 DC Comics crossover event. He hasn't announced what the name is or even teased what it's about. But he said, quote, "Just for clarity, I'm on Justice League for at least 50 issues. Not going anywhere. Not for a long time," unquote. He said all this on Twitter. He also added, quote, "But every 5 or so issues of Justice League will be a Legion of Doom chapter where writer James Tynion IV tells a story from the villain side and reveals big secrets," unquote.
All right. That's interesting.
You haven't heard about that? With the new Justice League series, Lex Luthor formed a new Legion of Doom. And they're all counterparts of the Justice League. At the end of the No Justice event, basically Luthor decided that being a hero wasn't quite as productive as he hoped when it came to, I don't know if it was saving or controlling the world. So he decided to just do it from another perspective. It was recently shown that he was given a glimpse of the far-flung future, where he found out too late that being a villain and showing people how to give in to their darker desires is the course of the future, and he just figured it out later than he should have because he was playing around with the Justice League. That's why he left.
So did you just give him the Christmas Carol treatment?
Something to that effect, but he's gathered together a real group of heavy hitters. He's got, like, Gorilla Grodd, the Cheetah, Sinestro, Black Manta, and he even has the Joker on his side. He got the Joker.
Joker is questionable, and how did he convince Sinestro to join up?
Sinestro, he promised him the ability to tap into the invisible spectrum of light, which is something that's come out after the Dark Knight's Metal event, if you recall.
Has anything to do with the ultraviolet colors?
That's one of the parts of the invisible spectrum. That's something that they've been going through recently in the issues of the Justice League. I'm glad that Snyder has longevity on something. Being able to map out a project for 50 issues is usually helpful. My only problem is, though, I've read so much of Snyder's current work, I'm not convinced he's the right guy to lead a central book in DC. You know me, I try to stay positive on everything, right? It's kind of annoying when it comes to comic books. But after reading Dark Knight's Metal and No Justice, and the first couple issues of Justice League, I'm concerned that Snyder's going to do what I think he's been doing for the past few storylines. He starts out really good, but the further it goes along, the more incoherent it gets until it turns into a whole bunch of splash pages and it just gets weird, you know? You can disagree all you want, but towards the end of Dark Knight's Metal, with Batman in glowing armor riding a Jokin' Dragon screaming yeehaw, yes, that happened, and
Yes,
that's what I'm concerned is going to happen here. It's like No Justice, it started out the same way. It started out with a very strong concept, but by the end of the story, it seemed like half the characters that were gathered really didn't need to be there, and there was an oversimplified solution to the problem. So I don't really know what to think about all this.
Sounds like he has a grand idea, but telling the story in a short time frame is just doesn't do it well. Do it justice, I guess.
I think you're right. I think Snyder does have very creative ideas, but he doesn't quite know how to get from point A to point B. He could really do with a writing partner. DC Comics has also announced what it's offering for Batman Day on September 15th. For this year's event, DC is going to reprint Batman Little Gotham #1 and Batman White Knight #1 with special Batman Day labeling. Each issue is going to cost retailers 25 cents per copy, so you may be able to pick it up cheap or free. DC is encouraging retailers to give it away for free. Dude, I strongly recommend you read Batman White Knight. That is the single best Batman story I have ever read. I say that without equivocation.
I gotta look for a new comic book store now.
Well, unfortunately, Batman White Knight is out and gone, and it appears to be pretty highly touted. I do know that they will be releasing the entirety of it in a single hardcover under the DC Black Label imprint in October. DC is also offering for Batman Day, re-offering the 2017 masks of Batman, Batgirl, and Harley Quinn to retailers at $15 per every 25 masks. I don't know if they'll be giving those away necessarily. But, yeah, I don't think I could... Remember how high I was on the Vision miniseries by Tom King?
Yeah.
I'm almost as high on Batman White Knight.
Wow.
Yeah. That's saying a lot. If you guys know me, you know that is really high on my list. Brian Michael Bendis, as of Action Comics 1001, has revealed where Lois Lane is. Were you aware that she isn't in Superman's regular stories right now?
I was aware she had powers and disappeared.
No, that was the New 52 version.
Oh, okay. No, I have no idea.
Post the merge of the pre-Crisis and New 52 versions that happened in Action Comics about around a year ago, there has only been one Lois Lane, the version that married Superman and had a child, John.
Mm-hmm.
Jor-El, excuse me, Superman's father recently returned in the comics with that weird kryptonite scar on his face.
Yeah, I remember that.
According to what I understand here, John Kent wanted to go with his grandfather so he could learn more about Krypton, but Superman was hesitant to allow that to happen. Of course, Jor-El has learned a whole bunch of other tricks in addition to obviously taking in a whole bunch of yellow radiation. He's, I don't want to say dangerous, but he's powerful. Instead of making a fight about it, though, Lois agreed to go with both Jor-El and John so she could keep an eye on their kid. The weird part is, though, it was revealed in Action Comics 1001 that Lois Lane is back on Earth, seemingly by herself, living in Chicago under an assumed name.
Huh?
She appears to be in hiding. She's writing what appears to be a tell-all memoir in a room in the Drake Hotel in Chicago. So it makes me curious, what happened? Why would you suddenly abandon somebody, your son, who you vowed to protect, from your, godly, powerful husband who is 4 states away? This
mystery.
is... Sorry?
So there's a mystery right there.
Absolutely. I mean, if you ask me, though, the marriage of Superman and Lois Lane has been one of the steadiest, but also one of the stodgiest parts of DC's comic storytelling. They have been so inseparable since they got married, it was almost... Their marriage was almost mundane after all these years. And it always just put her in the position to need to be saved over and over again. It never seemed like she really found her legs. But then again, that seemed to be the reason why she was created way back in the 40s, was to be saved forever.
Mm.
Well, we live in a new world. We know that women are maybe not as strong as men, but they're twice as devious. They're definitely smarter than we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They also have a higher pain tolerance, but they have to squeeze something very large out of a hole that's... Never mind, that's going to get way too personal.
TMI.
Yeah, okay. Dan McDade has been hired to finish the Doom Patrol mini from the Young Animal imprint. He is... I don't know how long issue 12 has been delayed, but it's been delayed for quite a while. It's now back on DC Comics' schedule for October 31st. McDade has been working on layouts by series original artist Nick Darrington, who's currently working on a Batman Giant serial with Brian Michael Bendis. It's nice to know they're finally going to finish it. Jeez. I think that's been delayed for about 3 or 4 months. And I couldn't tell you what the issue is. It's just troubling when something takes that long to resolve.
I don't believe that's the worst delay we've
reported. No, we have read much worse delays than that. I mean, shoot, Justice League Odyssey was supposed to be a brand new series. It's been delayed 2 months already.
Hasn't even started?
No. The artist said there was some kind of production issue. Best guess we've had on prior episodes of the show is that there may have been an issue and the original art was lost. So the artist Stepan Sejic has to redo the books.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, because, I mean, you've seen Sejic's art. He's really good, and it's very unlikely he screwed up bad enough that they had to scrap entire runs of the first 2 issues and start over.
Lost or digital corruption?
I'm guessing all of his work is digital with the weird painted style he does. It would take way too long for him to do that by hand. So I'm guessing that the files were lost and he has to recreate them all. Or at least enough of them where he basically has to redo the book anyway. Also, DC has announced that their Immortal Men series is coming to a close with September's issue number 6. This particular series was created by James Tynion IV. He co-created the title with the original series artist Jim Lee. He tweeted out the cancellation during Comic-Con. A collection of the 6-issue series is now scheduled for release on November 28th. I'm guessing that this is something that spun out of the Dark Knight's Metal event. We saw a couple appearances by the Immortal Men in the early parts of Metal, and then they just kind of fell wayside towards the middle of the story. DC has also announced that they're canceling the Shazam! The Monster Society of Evil reprint. Obviously, with the movie coming out for Shazam, DC was positioning itself to reprint some of the old Fawcett comics from the original publisher. But the Monster Society of Evil, it turns out it has some serious problems that should... If you feel like reading them, fine, but you're going to have to take it with a major grain of salt, because these were comics that were written back in the 1940s, and the 1940s version of different races outside of white people was beyond stereotypical.
It was terrible.
Therein lies the problem. I see a couple images on a story on CBR. One has to do with the Jap Jab in the Back Club.
Oh, wow, that's terrible right there. No way.
Yeah, the Black Dragon Society of Murder. And of course,
these names are terrible on so many levels.
Dude, they're all just gross stereotypes of Asians, complete with like thick glasses, slanted eyes, and jagged teeth for some reason. I mean, granted, it was the 1940s, and back then, you know, a world war was either happening or had just closed. I'm sure that there was a lot of residual feelings that had to be dealt with, but at the same time, it's a bit much. And then the other image is of Billy Bastion talking to a black guy who refers to him as Master Billy.
Nope, no way.
Yeah, helping him in the garden. So, yeah, I understand why they're not reprinting this story. Maybe they can find other Shazam stories to reprint, but this one will not do.
Oh, hell no.
You know, if you do, you would have to put like a 2-page, I don't know, explanation in the front about the 1940s and its view of race relations. Also, it's been announced that Red Hood and the Outlaws appears to be coming to an end. Jason Todd will be leaving behind Artemis and Bizarro because he feels betrayed by them for some reason. He's going to take on a new mission where he's more brutal than ever, and he's looking to really separate himself from Batman in this one. In addition to the aforementioned, he has a new design for his costume, which has some very personal items in it if you know the history of Jason Todd. I sent you the image to take a look. First of all, the full helmet, the full red helmet is gone. It's been replaced by just a red, I don't know, I guess you could say armored or plastic mask covering the lower half of his face. He's wearing a black, not domino, but almost, you know, I guess you could say...
Reminiscent of his Robin face mask.
Yeah, I was going to say an angsty Robin black mask. He's wearing a black t-shirt with a new Red Hood logo on it, which is almost a V. He is now wearing a red hood, a red vest with a hood on it, black accents, black pouches, dark pants with red racing stripes, black boots. Those aren't gauntlets. Red wraps, fingerless gloves. The most notable things, though, are that he doesn't appear to be carrying a gun. He's wearing on his back a short sword and a crowbar.
That crowbar.
Yeah, I take it you understand why the crowbar is important.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and let me put a couple things out here. For those that don't know, Jason Todd, in his first run as Robin, was beaten to death by the Joker in a special story called The Death in the Family with a crowbar.
Yes,
that was
blown up.
Yeah, he was beaten to death before he was blown up. It's one of the few times the Joker, I guess you could say, was merciful by not leaving him alive for the bomb blast. But now, let me also say, I doubt that he's carrying the same crowbar he was beaten to death with.
Yeah.
But just the idea that he's willing to grab this crowbar is reminiscent of a couple things. He remembers what was done to him, but at the same time, that also may be a statement of how far he's willing to go.
I'm just rather curious why the decision to dump the guns came about.
That's a curiosity to me as well. I mean, the guns have been in place since he became the Red Hood, since people knew he was alive again. So I don't know why he ditched that. It almost seems intrinsic to the character, especially since the use of guns was what really set him apart from the rest of the Bat family.
Yeah. So now, with all this stuff, he sounds like this, this high-end thug now.
I don't know about high-end thug. He's definitely going for a more cut-to-the-quick version of crime fighting. He's not going to do the dancing and the theatrics that the rest of the Bat family does. He's just going to go straight in and bludgeon them, it looks like.
So he's going to take the Casey Jones route.
I would guess so.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good design. I miss the pistols. I think they were an important part of his character, which I don't say often.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this. It feels, I guess it lets him be less, what's the word I'm looking for? It lets him
be more
noticeable.
It lets him be more individualistic, though, than the rest of them. He definitely is very different now from all the others. Also, can I just tell you something I did on the side here?
What?
Recently for DVS Gaming, I put together a breakdown of the Titans trailer that was released during San Diego Comic-Con.
I read that.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you agree with my fix for Robin?
Yeah, I totally agree with your fix for Robin.
Because as angsty as they tried to make Dick Grayson in that trailer, I'm like, if they just called him Jason Todd, nobody would have a problem here. It would make 100% sense.
Except him being a cop.
You know what? Him being a cop would... I would say being a cop would make sense, too. Just change his origin so it's not the Flying Graysons anymore. It's just, you know, his dad, the thug, who died as a result of a robbery. I don't know. I think it's a missed opportunity. But
Yeah.
let's finish up the DC comic news. There's one last story here. It appears that because of Harley Quinn, we have a new most powerful character in DC Comics. What?
I know. I'm remembering some of the last things we talked about before the 4 months.
Okay.
happened.
All right. Well, Harley Quinn is... Do you remember that she is on Apocalypse right now? As one of the female Furies.
Oh yeah.
Okay. She has the hammer. They're calling her Hammer Harleen. But in Harley Quinn number 47, she found out that Granny Goodness just came into the possession of a new god weapon called the Splinter of Destiny. It's also known in DC Comics as the War Lagog.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Okay, I had to look it up myself. According to the story on CBR.com, the War Lagog is an artifact whose power is so large, it's potentially the most dangerous thing in the universe, and whoever controls it has mastery over time and space. So whoever has that could rewrite history if they wanted to, right?
Uh-huh.
Here's where it gets weird. When Harley found out that Granny Goodness had this thing, she found out that Goodness wants to use it to erase free will from civilizations so that she can control these worlds on behalf of Darkseid. All right?
Uh-huh.
So Harley, being the anti-hero she is, she decided to get rid of this thing. She used her hammer, opened a boom tube, and sent the War Lagog through it. She demanded that the mother box and her hammer use the boom tube to send it 1 gabillion light years away. Well, I mean, it's gone, right? It's obviously going to be kind of hard to find.
Not there.
Right. So, meanwhile, you cut away, and somebody is beating a poor guy named Dickie Duncan to death. The estimated distance from this place to Apocalypse is about 1 gabillion light years. This person is demanding money, and he's holding an axe. And then the boom tube opens behind them. They turn around, and they want to know what this thing is that's sitting in the middle of the portal. So they grab it. You know who has the War Lagog?
Who?
The baddest Bastich in the DC Cosmic Universe.
I thought he was dead.
Nope. Lobo is alive and well and has the War Lagog.
Oh, man.
I don't know if he knows what he has, but a guy who basically slaughters entire worlds for fun has the War Lagog.
Oh, the 90s grunge is gonna make a big return. You know it is with this guy.
You know, he is technically now the most powerful character in DC. My question is if he'll use it, because the ability to rewrite time and space, comparatively, for Lobo, that might be a bit dull. Now, granted,
he has to be aware of what he has, and he doesn't. He's gonna just use it by accident.
I can't say if he does. I really don't, and I almost want to read Harley Quinn to see where the story goes right now. Because this sounds dangerous. Fun, but dangerous. And last up is our general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. And believe it or not, I have no stories about comic books or comic book conventions this week. It's been relatively quiet. I don't know if that's because several conventions are in startup, if people are still in that post-Comic-Con hangover, or what, but there just wasn't a whole lot in this regard. I do have one story about a comic book creator, though. And it's about one creator visiting another creator. How familiar are you, Jesse, with the current drama surrounding Stan Lee?
I think I've been out of the loop for a bit.
Okay, it's been pretty thick. Stan Lee is currently 95 years old. Apparently, some of the people close to him after his wife died have wormed their way into his finances. It's been estimated that he has been swindled or stolen from to the tune of about $1.6 million. Yeah. Some people have said that he is possibly within months of going entirely broke. I can't say if that's true. That appears to be speculation by some people who say they are close to him. He recently seems to have parted ways with his business manager, Kia Morgan, who Lee filed a restraining order against. A judge threw out that restraining order because there was a question as to which lawyer was actually representing Stan Lee out of two of them. That's been resolved. He refiled the restraining order. It's been a real back and forth. There have been questions as to whether or not Lee, up until recently, has even been in control of his own social media, which now has been partnered between Lee and his prior entertainment company. I want to say it's Boom Entertainment, or no, Bang Pow Entertainment. So things appear to be evening out. Well, recently Stan Lee was visited by Rob Liefeld.
Huh.
According to a post by Liefeld on Instagram, he said, quote, "When I saw Stan, my heart soared. His color was great. His eyes were wider than I'd seen them in quite some time. He was vibrant and spry, and I told him that everyone would be thrilled to see how good he was doing. That's when he said, 'I'm doing well. Tell them I'm doing well.' He said, 'Can you believe I'm 95 years old, Rob? I'm still here at 95. Who would have thought?' Unquote." Liefeld also told Lee that with the shareholder approval of Disney's deal with 20th Century Fox, the film rights of the X-Men and Fantastic Four are now returning to Marvel, as soon as the deal is finalized early next year. And apparently, Liefeld said that when Lee heard that, he settled back in his chair and said, quote, "Thank you for telling me that," unquote. So it appears that Stan is doing well now that he's separated from some of the more poison elements in his life. That's good. I was getting worried about him in the recent months. He seemed kind of gaunt.
I don't expect him to make any more convention appearances, though.
Oh no, it was revealed today that Stan Lee has announced he's not doing any public signings anymore, period. He'll only be doing private ones, which still can be done, but I really wouldn't be surprised if the cost of his signature suddenly bumped up to like $200 per.
Woohoo.
Would you really be that astonished?
No.
I mean, currently it's like 140 or 120 or 160, depending on where you go. If it was bumped up to 200 simply because he's not available to do it anymore, I would kind of understand that, especially with the financial trouble he's had recently. He's one of the few guys that's worth that $200 signature. And that's it for the news this week. The subject of this week is Shattered Starlight. It is a webcomic about a retired magical girl in Canada. And at this point, retirement means, age 27. The art and the writing were both done by Nicole Chartrand, Chartrand. If you want to read this yourselves, you can go to shatteredstarlight.com, all one word. And it's an interesting story about what happens to these girls after their adolescent or teenage adventures. Jesse, what were your initial opinions on the first chapter here?
It was a great step in establishing a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a first chapter should.
Well, the prologue, the first 10 pages, really helped set the stage without getting you mired in the prior story of her prior magical girl team, the Star Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was very obvious that the blonde one, the one with the scepter, died. The exact circumstances of which I don't know. And now, in the first chapter, we find out that one of her friends in the Star Guardians seems to have become one of her greatest enemies in her current life.
Yeah.
And I say that with the caveat of it's the usual angry friends type thing. They seem to want to hate each other, but like each other at the same time.
I think it's more of a respect than like.
I wouldn't quite call it respect from some of the dialogue. I think that's subjective. But in the prologue, with them talking about what she did at age 28 and accidentally using her powers to blow one of her managers at the company she was working with through a wall and 3 cubicles.
Oh, that reminded me of Incredibles right there.
I had the exact same reaction. I was waiting for some short woman to come in complaining about capes and long dresses. Let
I think that was the magical girl boss who represented that.
well the boss here, and I missed her name. The mystical entity that I'm guessing gave her her abilities was
Oh, the drunk thing.
no, not her little bunny avatar. Not the token mascot animal. The thing with the woman with the blue hair and the angel wings and the long ears. I can't remember her name, but she was so enraged. It was so far beyond what you usually get in a magical girl series by the person who bestows these powers upon the young ladies.
I think name-wise we just have to call her Empress.
I think that's a word that kept popping up over and over. I guess in retrospect, they never really mentioned her name.
Nope.
I do like the art in this book, or in this web series. I love the black and white being offset by the occasional splash of color, depending on person's hairs or hair color or irises.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to put into words, but I guess you could say it really draws attention to the particular details that the artist wants you to see. It's like
You know what's to focus on.
Right, it's like the Empress here. She's black and white with the exception of her hair and her bizarre star-colored irises. It really draws you right into her angry expressions. Or irritated expressions, depending upon what she's doing. What did you think of the main character here?
I think she's got a lot of baggage she just wants to let go.
Yeah, was her name Hannah?
No, Farah.
Farah, you're right, that's Farah. I loved her design. She's almost like an angry Canadian Jessica Jones.
Complete with pink hair.
The pink hair with a shaved side, she's very modernistic. I like it. I don't mind the leather jacket. The fact that the focus of her power is a hockey stick, that is so Canada.
It's a bladed weapon.
It's brilliant.
It is.
And then her little rabbit mascot that's to the world appears
handler.
It appears to be a stuffed doll to most of the world, and it's a raging alcoholic. Almost literally a raging alcoholic. That thing is angry. I just like it. Where's your handler? Have you checked your liquor cabinet? Look, don't give me... I'm being serious. And the fact that the Empress just would not erase her memory or take away the powers, but she reassigned her to a cafe of all places.
I love the cafe.
The cafe.
I love the name of it.
Yeah, the Dead End Cafe. The thing is, though, it's not like Farah has the greatest of people skills. Sticking her in a cafe seems even more dangerous than an office.
She just doesn't like paperwork, and firing someone's way too much paperwork.
Yeah, I would like to see what the paperwork looked like. The scroll to get her reassigned looked tremendous.
Look like you could hang that thing off of the Eiffel Tower and still have room to go.
Oh, God. The characters within the cafe, the two owners are apparently members of another different magical girl group who's grown up or fell apart or whatever they do.
Retired.
Yeah. The fact that one of them keeps greeting people with a combination of English and French with bonjour, hi.
I'm French Canadian, so I'm not. I don't find that quite surprising, given the area they're in.
I just haven't had any exposure to that particular culture outside a few individuals, and they are usually visiting the U.S. when I see them, so I don't get all the cultural connotations I probably ought to. I mean, I guess we should go back and say that this series appears to be set in Montreal, which is very much Ontario and French Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The size of the letter the Empress sent these two women, though, to tell them that Farah was coming. It was a good joke that Miss Chartrand set up here when they opened the envelope, and what popped out appeared to be an entire accounting scroll worth of letters. And the majority
Recipes
and it turns out 95% of that is a recipe for how to make different kinds of frappuccinos, which they don't even make in the cafe. I love the sense of humor in this story, man. The woman writing this has really gone above and beyond, making these characters pretty three-dimensional. They all have very different offset personalities, character types. They're very distinctive from one to the next.
Yeah.
Let me see. The two people that own the Cafe the Dead End, Sabrina Dante and Frederic
Fred?
Belchase.
Yeah, or Fred.
Yeah. They used to be part of a Flower Ranger troupe. And I would like to know more about their muffin baker, Leon. I don't know if he was one of the Rangers. I don't know if he was just a friend or a lover of one of them. A male love interest. But his attitude...
I strangely relate to him.
It's not hate, it's not despair, it's not disdain. I guess you could say it's a running motif of, I am so done with this shit.
Yes.
He just always seems so put out by everything going on, but he refuses to give up. It's like when they strike a pose around him, he's just carrying a tray of muffins, and all he says is, nice to meet you, bye, and walks back into the kitchen. I can't say I like Leon, but I like the cut of his jib.
Makes me wonder what he adds to the whole... What he adds, because his eyes are colored too.
I don't know. If he produces a flower and starts chanting shit, I will probably fall on the floor laughing.
Rolling pin.
Oh, shut up. But then there's the fact that the cafe has hired a musician for the next couple nights, and it turns out that's a young lady named Ainsland, who is the aforementioned former Star Guardian, the one who very much does not like Farah right now for some reason. And whatever... Sorry?
I was going to say, she looks very different from what I saw of her in the prologue.
Well, yeah, I mean, growing up, Farah basically has turned to a Montreal townie. There's nothing about her that's really standoutish, with the exception of her pink hair and her, I don't want to say ennui, but just kind of blasé attitude about life. Ainsland, however, appears to have adopted a much more punk rock philosophy about life, all the way down to the leather pants. And the music, obviously.
Yeah.
And the two of them just really get on each other's nerves. I'm going to guess that they don't hate each other, but whatever happened in their past that killed their teammate probably just drove a wedge between them.
Oh, yeah.
When the two of them are fighting off-panel and it's just a bunch of images, man. I want those blanks filled in. I especially like the response of Fred and Sabrina. Sab, you sure the Empress told us to hire her? It'll be fine. Give it a sec.
Bam. And Leon comes in there and sizzles everything.
Yeah, Leon's brandishing a giant carving knife. Will the two of you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to bake the muffins.
He comes off as a bit of a perfectionist.
Possibly on the spectrum, I would say.
Oh, man. I'm looking at the sign above the door he came out of.
Yeah.
GTFO.
Oh, seriously? Is that what it says above the kitchen?
It says that. That's where it says, that's his kitchen. Stay out.
So everybody here just makes coffee, and whatever happens behind those doors is what Leon does.
Yes.
Oh, God. Well, it's not even like Sabrina is the nicest person either. I mean, she's the one who says, if either of you two ladies trashes our cafe, be assured that I will end you.
Oh, man, the passive aggressiveness coming off of her.
See, these pages are why I'm looking forward to more chapters in this story, or I wish... I know that, what's her name, Nicole Chartrand is probably working by herself to produce this webcomic, but it's well written, and the characters... I don't want to say they work well together, but they juxtapose each other very well.
It's just a nice balance of personalities.
Yeah, it's like aggressive friendship. And it looks like it's going to be entertaining throughout.
I just kind of look forward to reading more, and if maybe just get some more experience to get more of a jump to the screen.
What, you want to see this as a TV or animated show or something?
Yeah.
It would make a pretty decent one, but you would have to get Chartrand working on it, because at the rate she's going, it's going to be quite a while before she has enough chapters to do an animated show.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, she has roughly 2.5 comic books out in everything that's available right now. Maybe 3. And I don't know... Well, this started quite a while ago. I mean, page 33 was produced on September 12th, 2016.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if she's working on other projects. I don't know if she has a day job, but either way, this is not the only thing she's doing. I would like to see it come out faster. I really would. I mean, the encounter between Farah and a woman running away from what's called Sithonians, her old enemy as a young magical girl that appears to have resurfaced. The conversations between this poor girl and all the other characters.
Oh man.
When she's a poor victim of these things attacking, they're talking about all the possible things it would be and the fact that she's supposed to forget this any second, and she's just sitting there with all these characters staring at her. Let alone they keep talking about her like she's not there. Or she won't be very soon. That's got to be creepy as hell.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Well, she's rightfully upset.
Of course she's upset. She just got attacked by cat-sized monsters.
And everyone's ignoring her.
Everyone's just talking about it like it's a normal day, and she just won't know this pretty soon. The only thing, or the only part of the story where I had a little bit of trouble was what they call bystander magic. I understand the concept. The concept is basically that human beings just can't process things they don't understand. Therefore, they come up with logical reasons why whatever happened to them happened, and just go on with their lives. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's called bystander magic, though, feels a little bit like a cop-out. It feels like there should be another term for this phenomenon. Beyond denial, anyway. It's my only complaint, just the term, bystander magic. It really doesn't belie what it is. What?
I'm trying to find an argument for this. I just, you know me. It's hard for me to gather my thoughts into something cohesive to be explained.
But I'd say the chapter throughout was pretty good, all the way through to the reveal that Farah, still goes to the grave of the friend of hers that she lost in her teenage adventures, and standing over. Sorry.
Yeah, Rachel Melrose, I believe, is what I read on that tombstone.
Yeah. And the fact that the prince, apparently, of whatever forces she was fighting, was standing over it, and it seems to have left a bouquet of flowers. Which, in the history of magical girls, both American and Japanese, it's not unheard of for one of the heroes to fall in love with one of their enemies, and it turns into a Romeo and Juliet, and will they, won't they type thing. It's still just I guess you could say that I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this story, so the fact that this story element played into it was a pleasant surprise.
Well, that alone made me think that there's other organizations other than the Magical Girls stuff.
Well, there may be. I mean, we know there's multiple teams of magical girls that apparently just don't interact with each other on an average day.
But part of me wants to think there's another counterpoint organization to them.
What, you mean some kind of villain rehabilitation or just some kind of villain support program?
Something, I don't know.
He could just be in hiding on Earth. I'm a little curious about his hair color. He and Ainsland seems to share some hair color and facial features.
Yeah, the ears and the blue?
Yeah, I was wondering if they might be related. Also, wouldn't be unheard of in Magical Girls for, one of the villain's relatives turning out to be another hero. I know, we're dealing with a whole bunch of stereotypes, but that's one of the reasons why I really like Shattered Starlight. It leans into the stereotypes unabashedly. It doesn't try to shy away from it or explain it away. It is what it is, all the way down towards the end of Chapter 1, and interdimensional aliens just pop into the cafe.
Maybe cousins, because not get a chance to see her eye colors.
Yeah, that's one of the things that didn't make it into color, I think. I did really like the look on the poor bystander's face when she saw the interdimensional characters, though.
Everyone was like, hi, 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 and she's like, what the hell?
Yeah, she looks like someone's gonna need to clean that seat. She reminds me of Violet from the first Incredibles film when she found out that her parents were special. That is the expression of a poor young lady who just figured out that her parents have sex. In this show we try to give things a final number score after we read it. So I'd be curious, give your summary and a final number score of what you read here in Shattered Starlight.
What's our range?
1 to 10.
1
Or
to 10.
you could go as far as 0, but that would basically mean it was never made. So
Honestly, I like the journey that this thing said, but I think I can name all the bullet points that this story is going to go through. I'm pretty sure I can.
hmm
So I'll probably give this. I'll put this at around 8. Definitely recommend people read just for the interactions
Oh
and
wow.
banter.
See, I knew you were an anime fan. I just didn't think you would go that high on it. I thought you'd be a little
I
more.
I've actually I've not been an anime fan for the longest time now. I just can't deal with the
I know.
exposition
I
dumps
really
the shows
thought,
do.
I really thought the potential anime stereotypes might turn you out on this story when I had you read it. But I'm impressed you went that high. I really am.
Oh,
Um,
I want people to read this.
myself, I've been following it almost since it came out. I found it about 5 pages in, and I've been reading it on and off. Just as they put out, as there's 5 or more pages for me to get back into. And I gotta admit, I was so pleasantly surprised that I like this story. The art style can take a little bit of getting used to. I'm guessing Miss Chartrand, art may not have been the first thing she wanted to do, but it's something she definitely did as a hobby. And you can almost see during the first chapter how she develops from panel to panel. She does get better as she goes along. And the black and white with splash of color motif, I like it too. It really helps draw the eyes to important details. The storyline does involve a lot of magical girl tropes, but like we said, she doesn't shy away from them. She finds a reason for those tropes to exist. And she's answering a question that I guess a lot of series never really answer when it comes to magical girls, as what happens to them when they grow up and their enemies are vanquished?
This definitely feels like a story a fan who has put way too much thought into things would come up with.
I would say it's like a fan fiction, but well written, frankly.
Oh yeah, no, and I wasn't going to use that word, but yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah. And because of that, and because of how it's cross-genre, this can work for anime fans and comic fans. The only down point I can see, really, is a couple of skips in the art, and the fact that it takes so long for the pages to be produced. So, like Jesse, I'm going to go in a solid 8. This is something more people should read and encourage her to produce more pages of it. All right. Well, shoot, I hadn't really had a chance to think about what I should do for next week. Usually I discuss with Casey and Joanna what they want to do. Do you have any suggestions for something I should read?
Oh man, since we stopped talking about this stuff, I really have just kind of fell off the radar on comics and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, since I get to pick, I want to pick something I haven't read but I've been curious about for years, literal years. I want to read the first volume of Superior Iron Man. The one where Tony Stark was wearing that silver white armor and
Oh yeah,
he
where he
was
started to become a bigger dick.
well, he was evil because of the Access event. He was flipped from a hero to villain, and they because of something he did, they weren't able to fix it with him for a while.
Huh.
And it was one of those things that was changed at the end of what do you call it? Secret Wars, when they restored the Marvel Universe. So I would like to really find out what he did in this story. I don't know. Would you care to sit in again?
Sure.
All right. Well, find out if the others can show up, and regardless of whether or not they do, you're invited to come along. I mean, it's always fun to get another opinion on this stuff.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully by the time we're done, we'll have that bell curve on evil fully graded. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thanks, Jesse, for showing up. I am Jeremy.
I'm Jesse.
Take care, everybody.